Thank you for joining this Altus Group webinar to walk through Forbury, a modeling and cash flow analysis tool specifically built for multifamily assets in North America. My name is Katie Bacon, and I'm an offer lead at Altus Group. Throughout this webinar, you'll have an opportunity to submit questions into the webinar chat box. We will answer questions at the end, time permitting, and if there are any questions that we don't have time to answer, we'll follow up with you directly after the webinar. For those of you who are less familiar with Altus Group, our mission is to solve critical asset and fund management challenges for commercial real estate investors, developers, lenders, and their advisors. We are a global company with approximately 1,900 employees who help our customers across 90 countries. This webinar is focused on Forbury, a new product being introduced into the North American market, specifically created for brokers, investors, and lenders. Our goal is to help our clients efficiently analyze and underwrite multifamily assets to then make smarter, data-driven decisions. The Forbury products and team were acquired in December 2023 by Altus Group. Prior to the acquisition, Forbury has operated for the last 10 years in the APAC and EMEA regions after being founded in Australia in 2013. With an initial focus on appraisal modeling, the Forbury products have grown to cover transaction and investment management modeling requirements. Made possible by the acquisition, we're now pleased to be expanding into the US and Canadian markets with a product built to simply speed up transactions underwriting, specifically for multifamily assets. Forbury products feature an Excel interface and are supercharged by the Forbury add-in and cloud calculation engine. This powerful combination of the familiarity of Excel with innovative functionality, such as the rent roll importer, allows users to get an initial asset assessment within 15 minutes. In addition to the products, users also have full access to our support team of analysts to help with any modeling queries or errors you may encounter. At this stage, I'm now going to switch over screens and take you through a high-level demonstration of the Forbury product. So this is the Forbury product that I have pulled up here. And as you can see, this is an Excel interface and model, so it will work exactly the same way as a lot of in-house models that we know a lot of groups are using. The one big difference is the Forbury add-in on the right-hand side over here, which is what I mentioned before. So inputs come into the first couple of sheets here. The light blue sheets are all of the input sheets. And within each sheet, the light blue cells indicate an input cell where data can be entered. Once you have made your initial data entry and assumptions, you can use different functionality in the add-in to allow you to manipulate the model. And then once you're ready to start running some numbers through the cloud calculation engine, the Run Model button up here is going to be what allows you to send your inputs to the cloud calculation engine. That will run and then bring all of the data back down into the dark blue output sheets on the right-hand side here. So I'll go through a few of the different components of the model so you can get a feel for how it works. On the dashboard page, this is a mix of inputs and outputs. So one of the key sections up here is the entry and exit section. We've got the acquisition or valuation date, hold period, and then what valuation methodologies you are looking to use. So we have NOI options, we have DCF, and then we also just have an input amount if you want to enter a specific purchase price, which I've done in this example. On exit, I've chosen my NOI, and then under my rate, I've chosen what I want to enter for my exit cap rate. I also have this entry cost section and exit costs. So if there are any associated fees with the acquisition or disposal, I can enter these in here. Because this is a populated model that I'm showing you, this is why I have a lot of the metrics that are showing up in this dashboard page. But if I do make any changes, so if, for example, I want to move this to 14,500, I now have a banner to indicate that one of my inputs has changed since I last ran the model, and that I need to run the model again to have the latest outputs flowing through into my model. I'm going to change this back just so that we can keep moving through. Moving on to the next section, I want to cover the rent roll. So in this example, I have my rent assumptions populated in this top section here at the unit mix level. So this is the calculation that the engine runs off of. But we do know that a lot of users are receiving PDF and Excel rent roll schedules, and it can be time consuming to both enter those into the model as well as analyze them to get to a unit mix summary. So in the add-in, I have my import tenancy button here. And what I can do is bring this up, and then I'm going to drag and drop a PDF rent roll file, bring that in. And what the importer is going to do is scan it, take a look at everything, and then it's going to automatically match up the headers that it's found in the PDF or Excel file, and then map those to the column that it recognizes within the Forbury model itself. So in this one, I can see that the tenant ID and the unit type have been pulled in. It wasn't sure which of these two, because they were duplicate names, needs to be the area. So I can just come in here and select area for this column. Coming across here, I can see that it's pulled in the in-place rent and the security correctly. It's pulled in the expiry date. And then other move-in, I'm going to select the move-in date for. If this is something where I do have a lot of templates that kind of come in similarly for myself, I can save this header selection, and I'm also going to pick market rent here. So once I'm happy with all of this, I'm going to confirm. This section is asking if I have any columns that I want to merge together. So if I had, say, my in-place rent, and then I also have an other or maybe a pet rent column, if I wanted to combine those two, this is the section that I can do it. And now I can see that it's brought it into the table format. I can make changes here if I want to. Otherwise, I'm going to apply this, and it will bring all of my data through into this section. I can then see that I can update any of my information in here. So if I do want to come in and pull that information through, I can do so under my rent assumption section. Otherwise, I can also just make some individual updates to this section. So once I'm kind of ready for this to go, I can either update my assumptions in here, I can make any other adjustments to my rent roll, and then bring that information up. I also have a section for miscellaneous income. So if I do have any mixed use or maybe some retail or office components, I can come into the section here and enter those income amounts across the years of the cash flow period. I think this is a good time to go back to my growth section. So in here, I have my growth option in this column. When I come back to my growth sheet, I have a whole list of options here that have come set in the model with revenue, miscellaneous income, but I can also add to this. So in here, I've added a retail store too, and added some different assumptions for my growth. If I want more, so let's say that I need an additional couple of growth assumptions for my miscellaneous income, I can add, say, an extra 4 lines to the growth section through the add-in, and this is going to provide me some additional lines where I can now start typing in anything that I want this to be named. and adding in my growth assumptions. I'm going to keep this the same just for demonstration purposes. And when I now come back into the miscellaneous income, I can see that this has been updated. And so I could choose this retail store 2 or even retail store 3 growth rate to be applied to my inputs here. Moving on to expenses, I have the option in this section again to add any additional rows to this section. So if I want to get very granular and detailed with my expenses, I'm able to. Similar to the previous sheets, I have my growth options that I can select. And then I've also got a few different options for how I want to input my forecast number. So in this example, I've got my real estate taxes and general admin as an amount per year. And then for insurance, I've chosen to enter this information on an apartment per year basis. Moving on to CapEx. In this example, I have added 2 different components of CapEx. I've got some elevator updates that I want to do, and because I know that this is just going to be a specific monthly duration, I can enter into here, put what start date I want this to be coming through at, and then what I want the total amount to be. I can also see that I've got this as a default growth rate, so that's what it's applying through as, but if I didn't want anything, I could just choose to have essentially no growth rate applied to that. In this CapEx section down here for my lobby upgrade, I know that I'm actually going to have different amounts across 2 years. And so instead of having to enter multiple lines to capture those different amounts, I can just enter the 1 line in here and enter my annual amounts into this section. These are additive, so anything that I enter into these 2 sections will get combined in the calculations. And I also have a funding option here. So if I'm looking to combine or have a separate CapEx facility specifically for these items, I can specify how much of this cost I want to be funded by the separate CapEx facility. Moving on to the last input section, I have a finance module in here. So the Forbury models are able to handle both equity and debt. So in this example, I've entered in some equity assumptions. This is the one section that we don't increase or allow users to kind of add more equity tranches, but typically we've seen 3 kind of handling most that are required, most deals that we see in market. Once I've made changes to this section, I'll be able to see the outputs down here. And then coming down to the debt section, in this specific example, I've put in a few assumptions around my rate and LTV. And then I've also elected to have a refinance assumption in this model. And so I've added a few refinancing assumptions in here as well. Once I come down to the next section, you'll be able to see the CapEx facility. So this is what we spoke about for the elevator. You can see that the information's coming through, and if I scroll across, it will be showing at what period I can expect to see those costs coming through. I also have an override option as well, so this is something that I can do in here. The couple of other pieces that I just want to show on the financing section is we have a shareholder loan section that can be entered in along with the debt up above. Some promote fee assumptions, so I can look at what the profit share looks like for the different tiers. And then I also have some financing ratios down here. So this is going to pull through a lot of the cash flow information. And then for the interest coverage ratio, debt service coverage ratio, loan to value, and debt yield, I can enter in what my covenant level is and then easily see across here whether my cash flow is going to put me above the level or below the level of my covenant level. So that is a high level look at the input sections. In terms of outputs, there are a few things that I want to take everyone through. We have cash flow output sheets on a monthly, quarterly, and annual basis. And so this can be pretty helpful for showing different clients potentially, or taking this and then applying it to any other portfolio level views that you may be wanting to look at. We do have some return metrics down the bottom here as well. So if you're wanting to see your asset and equity IRRs or multiples, the information is down here, along with some of your running yields across the cash flow period on both, again, a monthly, quarterly, and annual basis. I'm going to jump to the scenarios sheet, and one of the pieces of feedback that we've had from customers in our other markets is that it can be quite challenging to keep track of different scenarios or different input assumptions. So I've been there myself. I've had kind of 30 to 40 different files, which is, you know, final, final V1, final, really final. And so instead of having to keep track and kind of save different versions of those files or models, what I can do is come in here and look at my scenario sheet. So this allows me to basically save my different input scenarios within the same file, and I can easily go back and forth to different scenarios. So right now I'm in a scenario which I've titled higher CapEx. I know that I've entered some costs that I think might be a bit higher. I've also got one here for lower purchase price. So I can come in and I can create new scenarios, update the inputs to decide or to model something differently. And then that will save as a new scenario and show in my table here and continue to add to the output key metrics that I can view in this table. The other piece that's great is I've got this switch button. So if I decide that I want to go back and actually see what inputs and some more specific cash flow outputs are in this lower purchase price section, I can switch to this scenario, and then it will restore all of the input data into each of the input sheets associated with that scenario. I can run the model again, and everything in the model will update based on those inputs. So that is a tool that we have found to be really helpful, especially if you're wanting to maybe share this model with different team members or show them some of the different input assumptions that you've made throughout. The final piece that I want to show you through the add-in is this report section. So we know that for a lot of groups, you will have custom sheets, especially if you're working in an in-house Excel model, but often those formulas will need to get updated based on if you've made a change somewhere in your input sheets or in your formulas and calculations. And so something that we've done in here is to create some custom reporting that will be just included in the model, but you can get to or create at any point. So in this example, I've got a transaction summary sheet, and I'm going to pick that this is the report that I want to show. And then what I can do is preview this. So I'm going to click preview, and now I can see that I've got this nice report that has essentially generated in the model. I can see that it's pulling through and is tied to a lot of the different output sheets. It's bringing that information through in a really nice format that I've specified. I've got some charts down here. I've got my scenarios pulling through, so I can just expand these so that I can see this information. And then I can also update this photo. So everyone loves to see a photo of their building, and so we can swap this out. And then once I'm happy that this report is ready to go, I can save as a PDF. It will save in that format, and then I have the PDF that I can share around to groups. So that is one of the other key functionalities of the product. The final piece that I will speak through is the sharing of this model. So the way that this works, we've got a few different options. We do have export functionality into an AVUX file, which is the file format to be able to be imported into Argus Enterprise. So if you are maybe an investor who does have a portfolio that you're wanting to look at, or your investment manager wants to see how a potential acquisition could impact the rest of the portfolio, we have the ability to export the file data into an Argus Enterprise file format that can then be imported. The other piece with the Forbury models is because we are an Excel interface, if you want to, let's say that you're a broker and you want to share this model with one of your clients, you can actually email the Forbury product to them or the Forbury file to them. When they open this up, what it will basically, the experience for them is that they will still be able to see all of these input and output sheets, so they can look at what assumptions are in here. They can look at what the cash flows might look like. If they want to look specifically at a chart to see what their NOI by month looks like, they can do all of that. And then it's just if they're wanting to make their own updates to assumptions and run it to see what changes, that's when they will need a license to be able to access the add-in and the cloud calculation engine to be able to run their own assumptions through and receive their outputs back. Just one or two other points to mention. We do have an integrity sheet, so as well as kind of the update check to make sure that you have run all of your input data against the cloud engine, and we do also have some input checks to make sure that nothing has been updated in a way that the model won't be able to handle. The other piece to this is that often if you are working in kind of a common model and you don't necessarily know that someone else has changed a calculation or a formula, and then you go in and start making your inputs and maybe don't realize that a calculation has been adjusted, we do have some protection as well on the sheets where it's not an input cell to make sure that kind of the integrity of the model is protected. The final piece is that we do have access to, or any users will have access to our support team. So we have a support team of dedicated analysts supporting the Forbury products to really make sure that if you have any modeling queries or if you run into an error, let's say that this banner turns red and you're not sure exactly why, you can send this over and we will get back to you with additional information on how to either model a specific scenario or fix the error that you might have run into. So that is a high-level overview of the Forbury products. That is really what we wanted to cover today so that you can get a good sense of what we're offering for multifamily modeling, some of the key features like the rent roll importer, like the reporting summaries, and the scenario manager within the model. And at this stage, happy to open it up to any other questions that anyone has. Again, you can put those into the question box and then those will come through. If we aren't able to answer anything live, we'll be in touch and we are able to, we'll get back to you directly to follow up. All right, so we have a couple of questions here. So the first question that we have is, can the solution import my tenant information? So as we've seen, that is definitely something that we are going to be able to bring through. Just to reiterate, it works, the importer tool works with both PDF and Excel file formats. And that is also something that we have the ability to continue improving. So if there are any file formats that maybe it's the first time that we've seen them, that is something where we can update the technology that is reading those rent rolls to be able to bring it in and have it successfully work. All right, we'll give it just one more minute for any other questions. Okay, so we have one question that has come through around, can this product be used for buildings that have not been developed yet or built? So at this point, the Forbury product is really designed for stabilized assets. So we are not covering any buildings that are either under development or haven't been built yet. The Forbury product is really meant for stabilized assets. And having said that, if this is something where you are interested in using it for development, we're very keen to hear about that, and we may look at developing out that functionality to be able to handle the development use case as well. So definitely get in touch with our team, as we would be keen to hear about kind of your modeling requirements for any in development assets. Another question that has come through around, could this program also be used in a hotel management scenario? So this would be another answer kind of similar to the last one, where we believe that the format that we have here with kind of the unit mix and a lot of the CapEx and expense setup will generally work for hotels or other hospitality assets. I would say, again, we would want to potentially meet with a few of you if you are interested in it for this use case, better understand. And the other thing that we might be able to do is set up a trial. So if you want to run kind of a hotel asset through this, see if it works for your use case, and then provide any feedback so that we can consider that for future iterations of the product. That is something that we would definitely like to get in touch with you about. And the other piece just to mention is, even though we've been speaking about multifamily, the product is also set up to work for self-storage. So if you do have self-storage units, that is something that we can do with the product. And also student accommodation is another use case that we have seen groups use the product for. Thanks for the good questions. All right, we'll give it just one other minute. All right, we've had one final one that is specific to modeling in Ontario. I'm probably going to say that I am not an expert when it comes to modeling that component, so we will mark that question down and get back to you directly with one of the members of our team who can provide a bit more technical information on that product. We have also, so one of the other questions that we've received, can this handle renovation programs? So yes, in the Forbury product, we do have the ability to essentially model any large CapEx items, and then we will have the ability to adjust the income or the revenue coming from units. So this is definitely something that can be handled in the product. And again, we can get in touch with you to show you exactly how this could work in the model. Okay, that is great. So this is the end of the webinar. Thank you very much for joining. Thank you for your interest. This is something that the team is really excited about launching into the US market and Canadian market. We feel like there is a large amount of benefit that groups can get from moving from, say, an in-house model or maybe some other solutions to the Forbury product. So please be in touch if this is something that you would like to get more information about, and our team will also reach out to anyone who's expressed interest after the webinar. So thank you very much and have a great rest of your day.